What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Method in the Madness. This is a podcast that not only delves deep into design and creativity, but also leadership, productivity, and personal development. And this is episode 21, and my next guest needs absolutely no introduction. It is none other than Mr. Aaron James Draplin, graphic design Hall of Famer, in my opinion, incredibly charming keynote speaker, author of The Design Must Have Pretty Much Everything, and a merchandiser extraordinaire. Aaron is absolutely one of my design heroes, so I was absolutely delighted when he agreed to kind of come on and get him on the podcast and take time out of his busy schedule. And we have a great time, and Aaron is just, nothing but charming and discusses all sorts of things, including, where his relentless work ethic and kind of grind comes from, staying true to yourself and, not letting your own hype kind of get to you and believing your own hype. And he also tells us some stories where he first found his creativity and how's that led him to where he is today. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Power Life, and as you probably know, I cannot say enough about these guys. Power Life have created the world's most empowering chargers to power your everyday adventures. And with every sale of one of their products, they gift a child in a developing country with a solar lamp. One for one, absolutely no brainer. I first came across Power Life when their founder Jeremy Warner was on the show on episode 7, and I've been using their products, whether it's the power banks or the phone cases, ever since. Their chargers are awesome, and they totally crap on other ones I've had in the past. Not only are their chargers fantastic, but their solar lamps are already significantly changing the quality of lives of thousands of families in developing countries, doing things like helping reduce the use of fossil fuels for lighting in rural households, huge increases in academic attainment for children, and also keeping children safe at night when the sun goes down. These are issues that we will probably never have to, truly face, but for these families, this is absolutely their reality. So, whether you're on the move, you just want to have one in your bag as a backup like me, or you just need to charge your phone while sitting watching telly and you can't be bothered moving your arse off the couch, then you need to check out Power Life. Head over to powerlife.com and get yours today. That's powerlife.com. Can't big up these guys enough. You get an awesome charger, and a child in need gets a solar lamp. It's an absolute no-brainer. Now, without much further ado, please welcome Mr. Aaron James Draplin to Method in the Madness. Aaron James Draplin, an absolute huge warm welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. How's life treating you out in Portland?
Well, we're on lockdown a little bit here. At least we are in the backyard. So thank you for having me. I'm half Scottish. I don't know what half. Chunk in there. I'm some Irish and some Polish.
personality, of
Yeah,
course.
all
Like
the best parts. All the best parts, sure. But yeah, things are weird. We are as gently fortified as we can be. I mean, first of all, about a year and a half ago now, I moved to my backyard to work back here and to make that change, just from having to drive to work,
Yeah,
which has been amazing, amazing. So this idea of the 10-step commute where I wake up in my little house and I walk out back to my studio, that's something I've been enjoying the last 2 summers. And of course, in between too, but it's, now with this new scary stuff, we kind of realize how often we don't go out into the world. I mean, obviously, I go on the road and talk about, myself and stuff. Uh,
yeah, of course.
but those are kind of all being canceled for April. But it gives us a chance to kind of pause and say, wow, it's kind of weird how we don't interact with a lot of people when we are here in Portland. And maybe that's a good thing considering, what's going on now. So we've just been talking about that. It's like, wow, it's like a couple of days ago, we just jumped in the car um, just to do a couple errands. And it was like this special thing because it was like, God, we just kind of have to get out there, you know?
Yeah.
So, just drive around a little bit and just see some people because it helps you kind of feel, you look around, people are going through, fast food drive-throughs and people are going to Starbucks and people are waiting in line at, FedEx and things and stuff. The world is still moving along, But I'm pretty freaked out that that's all going to come to some kind of grinding halt. So what's it like there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange time here. Like yesterday was fine, I felt, like we're all just going about our days and whatnot. And then our glorious Prime Minister did like an address yesterday, which
Yep.
and then walking through Edinburgh to work today, firstly there was plenty of seats on the train, and then walking to work seemed to be very quiet. It had a Walking Dead vibe to it, like kind of
Oh,
post-apocalyptic,
really?
but it was strange.
Well,
But
isn't
then
there?
work was quite busy still, like
Yeah,
you know some people working from home, but like being working for a tech company and being working in design, our jobs naturally lend itself to sitting in front of a computer and working remotely. But I'm sure there's plenty of businesses out there panicking and struggling. But it's not too crazy in Scotland at the moment. There are people panic buying, the most ridiculous things. Like for some reason, people seem to be really panicking about like toilet paper and
yeah.
rather than food. But hey ho.
Well, we have a policy at the DDC when times are tough, we just use both sides of the toilet paper. It's been instituted to Lee and to Aaron Draplin, the two people on the compound here. Interestingly enough, it's terrifying that you say that because that's in one night. One night, with
Yeah,
the power
totally.
of our respective dipshit leaders, how that word can travel and how it can affect everything from just seats on a train. That's
Yeah.
overnight, like you were saying, and what's the next thing? So I don't know.
But it's just scary that like people are so, I don't know, like I'm not saying it's not a serious topic. It totally is a serious topic. I get that, but they're just so quick to kind of scurry away, and you know, all these businesses that rely on these people going to work every day and things like that. They need our support as well.
Oh,
But it's a pretty weird time. But hopefully we'll get through it. I'm sure we will.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's there's this is going to be a bit of a wake up call for preparedness all over the world and these things. And I don't know, man. I mean, what's like, right, when you talk about the grinding halt of whatever you're working on day to day and whatever I'm working on today. I mean, frankly, I before I was talking to you, I was talking to one of my clients, and
Hmm.
my workload is a little less because um, uh, they're putting up one of these music festivals I'm working on hold. And
Yeah.
and the weird part is, like, I haven't been paid, right? Like,
Yeah.
when that thing's done, and then however many months ahead of time it's out, the poster's done. Well, then I get paid, and it's like, mm, you know, luckily, I've been very frugal for many years, and I have savings and things and stuff, and it's not that big of a financial hardship to hear that kind of be put on pause. But that's
Yeah.
not
Sure.
for everybody, you know,
No,
and
totally not. Especially those who work for themselves as well. Like, a lot of these guys are stretching from, you know, job to job.
so all this stuff is. I mean, it's like yeah, Gregor, I was excited to come and talk to you about
Mm.
graphic design, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's hard to glaze over the fact that, like, shit's changing really, really fast. So as you guys listen to this, this is, I know it's going to come out whenever Mr. Matheson puts it out, but
Eh,
Friday morning, what is this, the 13th of here in the Aaron Draplin Standard Time in Portland, Oregon. It's shit's changing. So I mean, why did you come after me?
So
Yeah,
one of the biggest reasons is like, when I first decided to do a podcast, it was a bit of a kind of side gig, and I kind of listed out a list of people that already have in my network that would be able to do me a solid, or like at least 12 people. I've got this list of 12 people. They'll definitely come on for me, and do me a solid. That's at least a year's worth of podcasts if I do one a month. Um, and then I reached out to a little bit more people just in case some of those 12 people said no. And lo and behold, they all said yes, and everyone was super supportive of it. And it grew quite, just for my little audience, I suppose, it grew quite quickly. And then I was out with a friend one night, and he was just like, "Well, who do you want to get on? Like, who do you really, really want to get on?" And I was just like, "Well, it's like some of my total design heroes, I suppose, that I've like loved their work for many years and like kind of looked up to them and like just loved not only their work but when you see or hear from them in keynotes or YouTube videos, whatever it is, they also come across as like nice men or women. And he, my friend that I was out for dinner with at this time, who's also been a guest on the show, David Eustace, he basically got me to make a list, and you were on that list.
Cool, man.
Um, and I reached out to you, and was one of these things that oh, I'll reach out to him using the kind of email address that's on his website, and it'll probably be a while. I can imagine he's really busy until he gets back to me, and then you go back to me super quickly, which I really appreciated. So thank you very much.
Well, yeah, cool, cool. I mean, I just wonder how this stuff,
Reaches people.
how the virus spreads. I wonder how, what people are interested in, what people, what their perception is of me. I mean, I'm forced to go inward because I've said this a skillion times, but I, of course, never ever sort of could see that it was going to go this way, where people were interested in what I do, want to talk about it, want to interview me, want to
Yeah, of course.
document things. So it is just one big mountain of privileges to have people interested on any level, and then to try to accommodate that. I mean, first of all, it's fun to just sit and bullshit, it's fun
Yeah, of
to
course.
share things. It's fun to, say what I've been up to or whatever. So it's just, it's just like this weird thing for me where like, I'll hear in passing, one of the things that I've been afforded, is you get a look inside this community that, like, first of all, I was on the outside of. I was just a kid who was buying the design annuals and stuff. Like, I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
31.
Oh, you little puke. Oh, enjoy your youth, punk. And the world is so new to you.
Nobody would probably believe that if they saw me. I've got probably more grey hair than a 31 should warrant, but hey ho.
Well, I mean, just the idea that, like, even from 31 to my 46 years old, it's like that 15, 16 years between us. There used to be this time where, like, you would buy these design annuals, and that was
Yeah.
the only way I mean, it's before the internet, that you could see the cool stuff. And then those became these sort of like tomes, these like big monuments of like, ooh, this is what, 1997 looks like. Here's all the cool stuff.
Mm.
When you start to kind of sort of, dare I say, become a part of that, you also get to hear some of the inner workings of this stuff, where it's like, oh, got these kids coming after me for these podcasts. I'm sitting on these things, I'm just standing there like, you know what? I'm going to talk about you the next time I'm on a podcast, because that's just not the first. That's not the thing I think of. I mean, would I rather be laying around doing nothing today? Sure, but no. This is all part of it. If it isn't just bullshitting, it's sitting on the with someone in Scotland. It's bullshitting with my client and being a human and interacting, and not just a set of notifications.
Yeah.
This is about talking. One of the things that when people come to town, they come over to my shop to meet me, be it a client or be it a fan or whatever. I
Mm.
really try to make myself open to that, because I don't want a life where it's only work, 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 and then cash some paychecks.
Yeah, of course.
I want
Well,
to.
I'm glad you. I'm very glad you have that attitude because it's afforded me to talk to one of my design heroes. So I appreciate it, man.
Man, I mean, no pressure here, no pressure. Well, I want a life where it's not just a UPC. How do I say it? Scan from my mail guy. No, I know my mailman. We are friends. I know about his family. I know about where he's from, Vietnam, and he came here as a young kid. And I'm from Michigan, and we share these stories, and we talk a little bit of politics, and it's whatever it is. We talk about our lives here in Portland and how things are changing. And I've been around at least graphic design or just business just enough to see how people can be cold to the people that keep the world running. Be it
Sure.
your guy dropping off Amazon Prime, or the lady who comes by and scans my UPS when she drops it off. I've tried to get to know these people just enough to let them know, I'm a human being. I'm back here, and if you have any questions, I'm here for you. It's not this kind of business acumen of like, leave me alone. So to do these things is this weird chance to kind of stop myself and try to parse out the phenomena, which is this, you being interested in what I do. That's really something weird to me still, because for so many years, this was never about, any sort of like, the only outreach I had was
Mm.
showing stuff, making stuff, sharing stuff, making stuff, pushing it out to my friends. And it was just a really natural thing. And, now to have this sort of platform, which I don't know, I do one of these every couple weeks or something, maybe every 3 weeks, you know,
Yeah.
um, it's just a cool thing. It's a cool way for people to share. I think, why I'm so inclined to listen to, I listen to records all day long, but I'll go on these little Joe Rogan things. And listen, I don't fuck around with any of that, like MMA, who gives a shit about these, knuckleheads. But I will say, anything that has any sort of cultural kind of thing, he's kind of a jock, old Joe Rogan, but he's got some interesting folks on there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that actually, can really grab me, because what I like about at least that guy's format is he doesn't jump into this whole thing of like, I don't know how to. Hey, we're in podcast voice. Oh, it's six dudes sitting on with microphones, and none of them are fucking funny, but they're all trying to act funny and basically going zoo zoo, like morning radio garbage. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that stuff. That's why, I can't listen to, like, what we have this thing called Radio Lab.
Mm.
Radio Lab is a big one. I can't listen to it because it's just so overly edited and clever and smart. And there's just like, whoever's got the effects button going on, they're just going crazy. So, this sort of like kind of long form bullshitting is something that we'd be doing in a pub. It's something
Yeah.
we'd be doing if I just came over and visited you at your shop. So I think this stuff is important, But I will say, it's like I've kind of seen both sides, where it's like people are trying to monetize it. People are thinking they're a little bigger than they actually are. And that's a little
Mm.
weird, man. Because that's what I would ask you, was like, first of all, I just kind of say, hey, I have no idea what my audience is, who's interested in me. I have no idea. And I can't really I kind of have an idea who's interested in field notes. But first of all, how many people listen to your podcast? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so far, like I started the podcast only back in August in 2019, and so far there's been about like 60,000 downloads of it, which, you know, is for me like I started doing this podcast with zero expectation of, I thought it was just going to be my mum listening to it on
Oh,
repeat
right.
to help me out with the download numbers. And then when I first saw the kind of download numbers, and I was just like, oh shit, like 10,000 people have listened to this. Oh shit,
Cool.
20,000 people have listened to this. And then you're seeing like, not all of them. I was looking at, you can get the analytics and that kind of crap, and not all of them are coming from Scotland either, or they're not just my friends helping me out. Like they're coming from like, Africa and Australia and Netherlands and the United States and Argentina. And I've started kind of doing in the last maybe 10 or so, like listener questions. And I've had like listener questions from like, Buenos Aires and shit like that. And it's
Oh,
just
wow.
like, somebody's listened to my podcast in Buenos Aires. That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's funny that you talked about the monetization thing, because I kind of fell into that trap myself. Um, like, with a little bit of like, oh, this podcast is getting quite successful, I suppose, on a very small scale. Like it's not fucking Joe Rogan numbers or anything like this.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
it was actually one thing I wanted to bring up with you, because like in one of your talks, you talked about like the Free Fridays thing, like way back at TEDx. And then it just kind of struck a bit of chord with me, where you're just like, because like basically I started getting a couple of offers of people wanting to sponsor the podcast, and would
Okay.
I accept it? And I was like, oh yeah, totally. Let's make some money while make hay while the sun shines. And I went on this big thing about like trying to get more sponsors, and now I'm just kind of like, uh, like it just kind of got your talk kind of reminded me when I was kind of just racking my brain as to all these kind of different things. Is like, why am I kind of doing this shit in the first place? It wasn't ever to make money. Like I kind of have these kind of conversations with my friends who work in the industry, and like you say, you have these conversations shooting the shit down in the pub. Like I did the podcast because it's fun, and I like to talk to interesting people, and it puts me in situations where I get to talk to people like yourself who I've followed for many years. And so I've done with like, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there on this podcast specifically that I'm kind of no longer chasing any sponsors or doing paid
Well, yeah.
reads or any of that kind of shit. That's over. But what I would like to do is just kind of say to everyone for the first time on the podcast, because it's been a while since the last one, that if there is a product or service or event that you want to get heard to a random audience, then just drop me a message. If it's something that I like and I'll get behind, I'll happily give you a sponsor read for zero money or anything like that.
Yeah, I
Just
mean, the more I know about people being interested in what I do, it affects me.
mm,
Affects me in a weird way where it's like, you know, do I come on here and just be really natural with you and bullshit, or do I try to come and sell you a bunch of stuff? And the thing is like, I've just seen both sides where it's like my favorite podcasts to do are just simply like it's just a bunch of rat kids just excited to kind of hit me hard with a bunch of weird questions.
yeah.
And
Well, there's some of them coming up as well, I can tell you that.
a gunfight, my friend. So just buckle up. Well, it's just this weird thing because when you get a little taste of that, it can change. It can change things for the way you do your podcast, or it can change the way that I have either outreach or how I make merch or how I make things. And I
Mm,
guess what I'm getting at is I'm trying to hold on to the kind of just oh fuck it quality to living. Like
yeah,
I don't care if it's 7 guys, 7,000, 70,000, or when I was on Marin, which is I don't know 800, I don't know whatever it is,
yeah,
millions or something. But that was never supposed to happen. The idea that I'm open to all of them because you'll hear rumblings in backstage like, oh, did you have that kid hit you up? Yeah, I did. Just talk to him for 40 minutes. Who cares, man? It's cool, you know.
mm,
And it's just weird because when you get a little taste of this stuff, I just see how it affects even how we make decisions here.
mm,
So I'm actively trying to stay small at all times, which means maybe it's not the I don't know how to say it, the best business sense, but no, it's the right humanity sense. Like, let's just be open to sharing. Let's be, if there is no price tag, you don't pay me to come out here and I don't care. If,
yeah,
if you can make some kid in Buenos Aires, get through their workday a little easier with this product, that's exactly what I do with, I don't know, whatever I'm listening to, whatever kind of thing. I mean, so, I just, it's just interesting to me because the more I know about what I'm doing and how far it's reaching, I have to be really careful that it doesn't, get weird.
yeah, of course.
Really be careful because,
It's probably quite easy to fall into that trap though as well.
yeah, I'm just watching how. Oh man, I meet some real knuckleheads out there. Think they're going to do this. In the end, it's like you're broadcasting to 12 people. Just be realistic about that. If you can make it special for those 12, then do your job. But don't talk to them like you're talking to 12,000. It's like
Yeah,
the moment people know that there's some other dangling hook to go after, it can change their output. So I mean, this is on a larger level.
mm,
When we make things here, you know Lee, my girlfriend Lee, she can be a little more strategic than I can. I'm still in the mode of just kind of like, fuck it, let's just see what happens.
yeah,
I mean, I'll be out a couple grand on some stupid poster I made. Well, when we start to see numbers, analytics, and things, it can steer it. So
mm,
here's all what I'm saying is like, I'm really careful about that. Wherever number you have, you don't have to answer that number. It's more like, you mean 60,000? That's 60,000 people that spend an hour with you. That is amazing. That is amazing.
yeah,
If it was 600, 6,000, or 60,000, you still got to stay true to your whatever little flame you got, and that's what
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do in my life on a larger level, just every day. So I mean, it's just interesting to me, like, you know, uh, you know, is my time better spent making merch that I can sell? Is my time better spent working on, the answer is yes, but who gives a shit? And that's the
yeah,
I just want to meet people. I want to talk. I want to talk to my, Quan, the fucking mail guy. That's one. He's my buddy.
yeah,
And it's like I don't want to, just in life, I want to build a laugh. I want to be able to, console. I want to be consoled, and not just a little flick of a notification. And that's
mm,
why, that's why I draw on paper because it is almost like this old fashioned quality to holding on to just pen on paper, because there's
sure,
something special about that. We're losing that in this world of like, oh man, I went to Adobe Max this year and what a lucky duck I am. One of the guys gave me an iPad to use and was
all
like,
right,
hey, use our stuff. use our stuff and let us know. And it was, some new, whatchamajag, some little beta version of Illustrator, right? And
Mm.
totally cool and kind of scary. And I've been pretty resistant to it because I'm a mouse guy. I use a mouse to make my graphic arts, and
Yeah.
now you can use your fingertip and all this kind of stuff. And I was resistant, but this time I just said sure. And I get this thing, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I see how it can change. First of all, just using paper as a guy who's, well, helped own, field notes, as a guy
Mm.
who's helping with that thing, how that can change your relationship with paper. But I have to say, after a couple months of dinking around with it, I'll go to bed and I'll lay there and I'll sit and draw. I'll sit and sketch in the thing,
Yeah.
cook. But there's a lot of time for me to get that thing off of that machine and then right into the same situation I would be needing it, which is just inside my Illustrator. Let me cough out all this coronavirus. Hold on. Sorry, got to clean out the pipes. Maybe cut that out. But it's just this like it. As much as I learn the new thing, I keep racing back to the things that I can trust, which might only be a pencil and paper.
Sure.
And much like all these new platforms and ways to discuss things, I just kind of keep racing back to like, telling the client, just come over to my shop. Just come over.
Mm.
Just come and sit with me. It's okay. Come over here and just take a load off, sit and let's talk through. And we can actually get a lot more done than dinking around on phones that are in and out of reception. And,
Hmm.
or doing, some of these podcasts, listen, every time it's been some new cool platform, but sometimes those things don't work. And then that's just
Sure.
time wasted. I mean, I know I kind of cried on your shoulder a little bit about with this, but I mean, just on a larger level, like, what we're trying to do back here is like, what are the things that work? Let's stick with some of those. Yes, there's going to be new shiny things, but I'm able to make logos by just drawing on paper and then jumping into Illustrator and going to the next level,
Yeah, sure.
and I'm going to kind of keep it that way, as kind of selfishly as long as I can. I don't know, what that means, but there's been some things that have come along that change the way that I worked, and those are things to talk about, be it software or a
Mm.
plugin or something or whatever it is. But there's also been some stuff I've had to recoil from, and just kind of say, what, that's cool. It's a cool interface. It's cool. This, I'm glad people, I mean, whatever the latest TikTok is, you know,
Oh, Jesus.
well, I don't even know what it is. I just see the logo. It's not a bad logo, but it's like whatever the latest thing is. I don't know. I'm less and less interested in that stuff.
It's kind of funny, like after you're working in like I more digital design and working in the kind of tech industry, and I surprisingly not a massive fan of tech. You think I'd be like the person that's like clued up on everything. I have everything in my life, and I don't. I try and distance myself from it all as much as it just aggravates the
Also,
crap out of me.
you just have access to it. You guys are out there. I don't know what the hell you guys do for a living. All you digital guys, rerouting plane I don't know, trajectory. I don't know what the hell you guys are doing. Charging people for parking tickets. I don't care. But it's I don't know. It's just it's just kind of a weird thing where like the more you know about these things, if it's not making yourself better, I will say this. When the iPhone came out, that changed some stuff.
Mm,
Changed some stuff. First of all, it looked good in your hand, like like the graphics and the interaction was really nice and it was quick and stuff. But it changed the way that I worked. It changed the way that I could collect things. Like I didn't have a camera around my neck anymore. I had a camera inside that phone. You know,
sure.
one less little, like one whole entire, photography industry just goes away because of that stuff. Well, it's kind of weird because there's also something I lost in that process. It's a really interesting when you go back and you look at, what my photos looked like before 2000. What was it, 9 or 8 or whatever that was?
Yeah, something like it.
Well, they had a different quality. They had, first of all, they were from these SLR digitals or whatever they were. And I
Mm,
would there was more steps to take and you had to get them onto the machine and all this kind of stuff. And now you just notice it's like, they're getting better and better and better and tighter and smaller and cooler inside these iPhones. But like,
Yeah.
I kind of miss some of that depth of field. I kind of miss some of that vignetting. I miss some of that little magic that would happen when I would, first of all, I'm not any big photographer. I'm just leaning over something, taking pictures of dead stuff,
Yeah.
And I just noticed it's like, man, when you go look, there was a noticeable precipice that I got up to, and then it just kind of dropped off. And I mean, I just kind of I squirm now because it's like, man, I have buddies who are photographers, and they have held on to that kind of analog pursuit. So, the thing is like, instead of just being stubborn, I meet some of those folks too, are just like, I'm not going to do it just because everyone's doing it. I don't want to be that kind of guy,
Mm.
or like, like it's hard for me when I finally check in with this guy from Adobe to say, it's cool, it's fun. There's been some, I've been able to, in the middle of the night, not have to, fumble around and get my field notes. But I have to tell you, I kind of wish I would have had my field notes, because the
Yeah.
moment, my big gorilla hand erases something because of whatever swipe combination you guys have, or whatever these things are in these things, I lost something. That doesn't happen on paper. So,
Mm.
I don't know, it's just an interesting time, man. I think,
Yeah.
you know,
It's strange.
with all this virus bullshit, I always wonder, does this kind of scary stuff, these reminders from Mother Nature, in whatever way, remind us to slow our asses down and savor the things that matter the most, which is just sitting with your buddies and talking.
Yeah.
um, you know, Making sure your house is clean, making sure your house is well stocked, making sure you're healthy, all these sorts of basic things. Because, listen, you just get caught, all of us get caught in the melee of just like everything going ape shit. Everything was due yesterday. This new product's coming. We're going nuts, right on down the line, and it's like, I don't know. I just wonder how these things affect us, and I've been
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking about that a lot the last couple of days.
I'm not surprised. Um, you're a like I kind of consider myself a bit of a workaholic just because it mainly doesn't feel like work to me because I enjoy it.
Sure.
But then I see just how much shit you've got going on, and it kind of pales in comparison. Like you're ticking every single box, whether it's obviously your work or your book or speaking gigs or pop up shops or merch or apparel or whatever it may be. Um, like where can you trace like where does your work ethic come from? Like, can you trace that back? Is it like a particular person that had an influence on your life, or a moment where you kind of switched it up?
Well, I mean, of course, if it's a human being, I could kind of say, seeing my mom and dad, their influence on me to be like, listen, you get one shot, be a good citizen, be a good person. When I was 14 years old, my dad took me down to get my 13 years old, took me down to get my first job at a pizza place.
Mm,
It wasn't all that attractive, but he just kind of had to tell me like, hey, these skateboard decks and shit that you're into, your mom and I can't, we can get you one at Christmas and your birthday or whatever, but we can't get these every 3 weeks like you guys kind of need. Like
sure.
you're in this thing with this thing, and you're going to have to be able to provide for these. And it was just this, it's a very Midwestern thing here, where I was, where I'm from and stuff. Um, well, all the way back to being 13 and being told, like, hey, you got to work. I have to work. My dad telling me this on the way down to get this pizza job, you know. But what it offered me right away was community. I got to be with my buddies and make new friends, and I got to, make pizza dough, and it was a pizza job, right, right, right.
Yeah, sure.
It was just this sort of, I don't want to say harsh, but it was just this kind of quality of like, hey, we all work. We're working people. And you better wrap your head around that quick, because this will not only allow you to, buy your skateboard decks and all the things that you need, but, this is just, these are the rules. So it starts there. And then, of course, like, where I'm from, like, it's really interesting now when I meet kids who are, 22 or something, and I'll just kind of go, hey, what kind of jobs do you guys have? Because where I'm from in Michigan, at that age in 1989 or 1995, or all the way up to whatever it was when I was a kid, all
Mm,
of us, every one of us had a job. Every one of us had a job. That was, I mean, it was part of the social fabric. It's like,
yeah.
you had a job because that's how you paid for your stuff. and you had a job because that's how you interacted with other people. And
It gave you freedom as well, though.
yeah,
Like you were no longer like ratting on your parents to give you money. Like
all right.
the
I mean, it was just an interesting thing because now, it's like we didn't know any better. Now I'll talk to these kids and they'll say, "I don't have a job," and I'm confused by it. I'm always confused, and I understand. Okay, it's a different time, and you know, whatever. But out of that understanding that it was like, listen, you have to work. I've always had that in me, and then the next thing is, it's like, when we moved out west, and I have to be careful how I frame this because I'll say these things like, "Oh, we were broke." Well, here's the deal: we were broke, and
mm,
call it what you will, but even if we were broke, we were still in this beautiful western. We were in Oregon. We were with all of our buddies. We still had enough money to go snowboarding every day, which is such a privilege. Number one.
yeah,
And then this idea of me being like, oh, we were broke and we were learning. Well, the couple times where I could not, we'll just say, afford something, I don't forget that stuff and I don't take that too lightly. I remember that stuff and being sort of terrified that, like, wow, no one else is going to be able to do this for me. Like, this guy has a killer car. I don't have a car. I don't have anything. How am I going to get a car? Well, you're going to go work for it, and just clearly understanding how much time it was going to take, and yet being very off put seeing someone show up for the winter out there who's, well, comes from a richer family or whatever you want to call it, and at a very young age understanding not to be bitter about that sort of, I don't know, call it whatever you will, just different situations. We had kids
yeah,
out there, and, like, here I am working all summer long in Alaska to pay for, well, the previous winter or pay for the next winter, and having to come back and be like, well, listen, you're not going to have a car. You're going to ride your bike around all the, that's what you have. And then there's kids showing up from wherever and their parents bought them some new truck or something like that. It can just beat you up. But,
yeah,
through that kind of hard work and, sort of perseverance, I also kind of medicated myself to be like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy who's bitter about that stuff. If this is my little path, I'm going to make the best of it, hands down. Right. So,
mm,
that has always stuck with me. I know what it's like to go without. I know what it's like to have nothing in the bank. I know what that fear is like. So, to try to answer why I do what I do now, you got to go back and you got to look at why. What sense of urgency did I have then that the next buddy down the line didn't have? And it kind of comes back to really goofy shit like this. It's like, I remember, whatever my plight was in 1995, I would go up to this little community college and I would kind of sneak in and use their machines, right? And I remember
mm,
the options that we had that night. We would snowboard during the day and then we would go to our jobs at night. And if I had a night off, your options were you could go play pool, at some bar or something. You could go, chase girls or, go to parties or, I don't know, maybe go to a movie or something. But more and more and more and more, I found myself just interested in drawing and sketching and inking these things. I didn't have a computer. Then I would go sneak into this, community college and use my buddy's account, and I could use, their page maker and, whatever it was, freehand at the time, and a little bit of Photoshop, to learn these programs. And that's all I had. So I learned to savor that very limited access. So,
yeah, sure,
a year later, I go up to Alaska. I work all summer long washing dishes. And I'll just say it sucked. It sucked. You're up there with all these beautiful people. You've heard the talks and stuff when I tell
mm,
these things, but I wasn't up there because I liked it. I was up there because I had to be there. I was broke, and that perseverance to get through that summer. Every morning, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get down to the train yards by 5. Your life changes abruptly, right?
yeah, of
And,
course,
at the end of that summer, my reward was a computer. That computer opened so many new doors for me. So here's the thing, to walk you through some of the history, it's a lot of years. But see, what it does now is it kind of fucks with me. It's because it's like, I know what it's like to have nothing. So I take advantage of all these opportunities because, like you said, you make hay when the sun, listen, you strike when the iron's hot.
yeah, absolutely, man.
this could all go away. So it's a big part of my motivation to just try to be healthy with my, outreach, healthy with my output, um, healthy with, listen, I get a lot of emails from a lot of kids asking for advice and stuff, and that is the last thing I answer at the end of the day. But healthy with that, that's a privilege to
Mm,
have people interested in what you do. I mean, I'll talk to colleagues and I'll say, "What do you do, man? I'm getting hit from every angle from these kids. They're asking for jobs, they're asking for this," and they'll just say straight up, "I don't answer any of that shit. I just delete it." It's like I just have a responsibility because I used to be one of those kids. I
yeah,
used to be one.
absolutely. Like it's like you even get it on like a local level as well. Like I think anyone in the industry, even if you're in, Scotland or wherever it may be, like there's always the local college or something like that looking for a job at your business or whatever it may be, and all this kind of stuff. And like I remember being in university and you send, you know, 20 emails off to people that you admire, companies you admire, and you don't get shit back. And you remember that. And you're just like, you know what? Like, fuck that. Like, when I'm maybe in that position and people are asking me for advice or questions, I'm going to fucking reply. It's like, what is it? Like 10 minutes, like half an hour of your time max, probably, to reply to an email? Like, it's not a big deal, you know?
Well, I mean, it's just it's a responsibility to be like, we're in this weird little time now where like just with email, if someone reaches out, no matter how nice they reach out, they're wondering why they haven't heard back from you pretty quick, and that's yet another part of this weird modern quality of like, well, whoa, wait a second, what is the normal time that this stuff should sit before you get a chance to reply?
Mm,
That's scaring me. That's the stuff that scares me. It's like, whoa, now you're becoming aggressive. Of course, I got the email. I haven't had time to go do the recycling and cut down a bunch of cardboard boxes. That takes 45 minutes, once a week, from all the stuff that comes in for the merch.
sure.
You can't be mad at me that I didn't get right back to you, young kid asking for a job or whatever. So, it's just a weird thing. Like, as this thing grows, I try to stay really connected. I try to stay, be a good citizen and interact and make time for that stuff and help sometimes, lead a kid, a different way or, offer some advice or something. But, you know, all of this boils down to this weird thing that's like, this quality of like not being able to say no.
Mm,
Sometimes I struggle with that because my mind instantly snaps back into this feast or famine shit where like I kind of quickly remember the sort of either shame or confusion of like, or not even that. How about just resolve of like, fuck, I have nothing in the bank. How am I going to
mm,
get something in the bank? You're going to work all summer, The resolve,
yeah.
like, well, here's what I'm doing. Well, that motivated me because instead of going and drinking, or instead of going and hiking, or instead of going and whatever, I tried to learn. I tried to learn, and and it's like all these years later, I just remember that drive. It's no different with me taking advantage of all the jobs or the opportunities, or like you said, clothing, or some of these other weird things I've made in the last couple of months. A lot of these collabs, that Rumple blanket or that Timex watch, that's all stuff that's been in the works for a year and a half. I can't
Yeah, of
talk
course.
about it until it comes flying out, but it's like none of that shit was ever supposed to happen anyway. You have to understand when you see those really fun, flashy things like that, those are the things that like I clearly understand are icing on the cake. The cake, the cake that was baked, that's the day-to-day grind. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, this is a good job, take the job, do the job, be a good person, get the thing done, and then get a paycheck. That's the grind. And that's called life. And what's so interesting about this stuff for me is like you said, it's like when it doesn't feel like work, you have kind of a weird way of how to, you know, turn things off or turn things on. Now, my girlfriend, Lee, pretty Lee, she's a lot better at turning shit off. I'm not. I'm like, like,
It seems to be quite a common theme with most of the guests that come on the podcast.
and listen, it's like, like you said, it's like, it's not like I'm out here, hating life. It's pretty awesome. And if I can keep it that way and healthy, well, then good. So it's hard for me to kind of like, you know, what I'm just noticing is I'll just notice like these weird, I'm not going to call it creative block. I just notice a weird sense of exhaustion where it's like I just get to the point where I'm like, okay, I've done enough today. It's time to just shit. That's due. This is due. He's just gonna have to wait. She's gonna just have to wait and just shut it all down,
Mm.
space, and people are using the word literally wrong these days. But literally just shut the lights off, shut the computers off, and literally walk away from it. Because if I don't, my phone's gonna blink. I'm gonna see something to read. I'm gonna grab my guitar, and I've in the last couple months after a very busy 2019. And by the way, thank you everybody. I've made time to just lay on my ass.
Relax.
I've made time to just do nothing. I've made time to work out. I've made time to get healthier. I've made time, and we were doing it the last bunch of years too. But it's been just a smidge different where I'll just stop myself and go, Jesus, like in my field notes, there's like 17 things in a list. That's enough today. I could work, and the 10 at 10 a.m. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. I know I could do it all the time, but what if I just called it and I went inside, and it's like Lee, my girl. It's just so funny to me. Like I'm embarrassed to say this stuff, but like she's really good at like providing a good meal, like stopping
Mm.
me and being like, hey, you've been out there all day. Come in and have a good square meal and then go do whatever you got to do, you big ape, whatever it is. But it's like, I'm really thankful for just that sense of like normalcy for her to like stop me and say, you know, remember when you were a kid, everybody used to sit down and eat, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember that, and there was a community to it and stuff. And sure, we'll sit and watch. I don't know if you guys have Chopped over there. There's this show we watch all the time when we're eating called Chopped.
No, I've not heard of it, but
Well, what it is, it's like you take four chefs and they get these mystery ingredients and they have 15 minutes to make an appetizer. Anyway,
oh, we had something very similar
sure.
called Ready Steady Cook.
Of course, whatever version you got over there,
Mm.
brought to you by, the Queen's Majesty's filthy lucre. I don't know what you got. Who It's not the world's coming to an end. Who gives a shit about any of this stuff? Well, we sit and watch this thing, and it's like it's a chance for us to, like take a load off, and I'm just bad. I'm not bad at it. I'm always motivated by the past of like uh, you know I have to be really careful when I talk about this stuff because it's not like I was ever hungry. You know what I mean? Like something
Mm.
scary like that. It's not like I was ever really all that unhealthy. You know what I mean? Like to the point where something was bad. Things were always pretty good, and I have to be careful how I frame it because that is the truth. I have friends who it wasn't that good for them, for any number
Yeah.
of reasons. And, that also kind of messes with me with graphic design, also because it's like, wait a second, like it might have been family stuff or it might have been something self imposed, but, you know, this isn't all that rough. It's not like that makes me stay out here longer too because I'll just realize like how lucky I am to do this.
Well, yeah, because like you say, it doesn't really feel like a job at times. So you're just like, you kind of look back every now and again. You go, my situation could be a hell of a lot worse.
Well, what I'm learning to do, and it might sound weird, is I'm learning to let it feel like a job because otherwise it's getting unhealthy sometimes, right? So
Mm.
when it starts to feel like a job where I'm like frazzled or I find myself, jumping off of Illustrator and getting away from where, I'm doing the work, I've learned to harness that. I'm learning to harness that and say, okay, it's time to get up, it's time to move and go. If the energy is going to be what it is, go do the recycling, animal, get it done, like the little things. It's like I just made it all kind of into a game of productivity, really,
Yeah.
um, and then that becomes this thing once again. Release like you're out there until 2 in the morning. What are you doing? Well, I'm keeping the shop clean. I'm organizing records. I'm working on this logo. I'm sketching. I'm doing I'm learning how to turn it all off. And
Yeah.
like I'll do these things where I call my nephew, and he doesn't want to talk to his uncle. He's 11 and he's almost 10, and he's got better things to do. But I make him talk to me, and I sit and we interact, and share this, that share just 20 minutes or something. He's just 8 miles from me, or I actually jump in the van and I go down there and wrestle with him and screw around with him, or see what video games he's into, or just see what he's been working on at school, or just go spend time. I've in the last couple of years, I'm really proud to report I've done a lot more of that.
That's great.
So that's because here's the deal: we can make more money, we can make more things, we can also make ourselves crazier and crazier and crazier. And it's like I'm just learning to kind of say, God, how much is enough? And this just has to be enough. Is my mom taken care of? Yes. Okay, cool. Next. Is Lee okay? Yes, Lee's okay. Cool. All right, I've got enough in the bank. We're cool. Let's just be cool with it. And that's sometimes a hard thing to do. So,
Yeah. Looking back at your kind of past again a little bit, like, can you remember a particular time where I've discussed it on the podcast where I kind of figured out that design was even a thing I could do for a living. Like, can you remember back when you first like felt creative or knew that you wanted to be a designer?
yeah, I mean there's little flashes and blips and things I remember. Sadly, it's always revolving around money. It's like that
Mm,
first time that you get a paycheck for being creative. That was a big, big moment because everything came to a head at that point. It was like, okay, all this. I remember the first time I got a paycheck. My, this job. It was I was working at a snowboard magazine, and it was like up to that point, I'd gone to some school. I had lived out west and worked freelance a bunch of years, couple years, and I was just learning the ins and outs and the basics. This is 96, 97. In 98, I went back to school because I saw like this freelance is only going to go so far, in this small town.
sure.
It's only going to go so far. So I better get because, as a Midwestern kid, from Michigan, if you don't have your degree, you're kind of told that it's going to be harder for you, you know, and,
Mm,
and yet you have this hole inside you because you're like, well, damn, if I don't have a degree, I'm not going to be this. I better go get that degree. So I went and got the degree. And what you realize, it just comes down to work ethic. Like I already knew how to pay my bills. I already knew how to take care of myself, whatever you want to call it. And then, here was this chance to pause all that and then learn. It was really cool. Well, then you go through school and you get done. And then, I remember being kind of made fun of by a teacher because, well, what are you going to go do with all this? And I remember just saying, I'm going to go make a living. And that wasn't a good enough answer. That wasn't a good enough answer because it wasn't, kind of blue sky thinking. It was like, I'm going to go change the world with this shit. That's not realistic. I'm not going to do
yeah.
that. I'm going to go start paying off loans and shit, like the rest. That was exciting for me because you know what? It was better than going up to Alaska. You know, it was better than spending your whole summer, cooking and washing dishes on a train, right? And that was
Yeah.
exciting to me. And I got made fun of for that. And that was like that first glimmer of like, I'm going to be okay because this person is so far up their own ass that I'm ready to work and I'm ready to take
Yeah.
chin. And that was just this weird little moment. But I remember that first paycheck, and it would have been in Southern California, and it was a couple $1,000 and whatever it was, and X amount went to rent right away, and X amount went to this right away, and whatever was left over, it was just like I just manifested this through hard work, through some education, through some connections, through some wherewithal to just be open to meeting people, and then that at some point that thing becoming something cool, and it was like it was just a really proud moment, but also knowing that like wow, even at this job that I have, people leave at 5:30 and they go home and they do stuff. What were they doing in 2001 or 2000? I don't know. They're going surfing. I was down in Southern California.
Yeah.
But me, I was working on my own shit. I was taking every freelance opportunity that came down the line because it was like that was my chance to get ahead of even getting ahead, right? So,
Sure.
here's the deal. Then I get back to Portland. I'm here in 2002. I get an awesome job, as at this design firm, and everything's cool, and I'm working at night, either working late for those guys or I'm going home and working on my own shit, right? And
Sure.
it was just this moment where it was like, the only way I'm ever gonna listen, they're only gonna pay you so much, but how am I gonna get ahead to where I can be even more creative? Well, it's gonna be through hard work. And I sized it up, I sensed it, and I got my ass to work. So when I jumped out of my thing, and you've read this or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
2015, yes, I made more money because listen, what it comes down to is like I got myself in a hole. Then I got myself out of that hole in short order because I did it by taking every job. Now, that's a weird thing because is that because of talent? Is that because of privilege? Is that because of opportunity? Is that because of like manifesting something that, previously wasn't there? I don't know how to answer that. I know
yeah.
I didn't say no to much. And things would come in, I would get them into the mix, and I got busy and I kept staying busy. And before I knew it, I had money in the bank. And that changed everything because what it allowed me to do was it not only allowed me to get out of this kind of fear response thinking of like, oh, I better do this because I'm broke, or I better do this because I have to get these loans paid off. I better do this because who knows if it's going to ever come up. It allowed me to open myself up to say, all right, with that shit covered, now I can get weird. And if
Yeah.
I want to make a bunch of things, because of the machine I built from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or whatever you want to call it, I just kept going. I kept going. And that drive that was in me, I started to see it pay off. Before I knew it, I paid off my car. Before I knew it, I paid off my school loans. Before I knew it, I paid off my house, right?
That's crazy.
And because there were windfalls and money and jobs, and like one year, I think it was like 2010 or something, I did like 70 logos that year. Some were for $50, some were for 500, some were for 25,000, right? It was insane, and that was the year that I started to get ahead. And
Mm.
okay, now that I'm ahead, I'm ahead. Now you can rest on that and then take a big break. But no, it's like I even got going faster or something. And I started to like size up like, if I want to make a memo book company, I'm just going to do it. Who cares? It's just a couple $1,000. Let's just see what happens. In the worst case, that I made those 2,000 books for $2,000, like you've probably heard me say before.
Yeah.
If that goes away, you still got a stack of these. If you were, I could give you a stack. You see what I'm saying? It's like I just understood. It's like when you start to get some money in the bank. I remember being told by a buddy, "How much you have in the bank? 1,200 bucks or whatever." Aaron, that's not even your rent. It was like I'm doing my best. I was getting ahead. I was just starting to get ahead. And I remember him telling me, "You need to get 5 grand in the bank because what 5 grand does, it just gives you a little bit of padding, and then you need to get
That kind of peace of mind.
You got a little now you can afford a ticket back home to see your mom and dad. You can, if you need to, if you need something, you can afford it. My parents taught me very clearly from a young age, do not buy anything that you can't afford, right? So I'm pretty good with that still. But it gave me a padding. Before I knew it, I had 10 grand because I was just working so hard, taking all these extra jobs. A windfall comes in. And now with 10 grand, that allowed me to say, I can go for the fall. Remember, I'm freelance at this point. This is 2004, 2005.
Yeah, sure.
Take off for the fall. Money is still coming in, and I can go drive around America and see America. I did a series of road trips each fall for about 3 years in a row where I would go see my mom, see friends in Minneapolis, go to somewhere I've never been, in Louisville, and spend 10 days in Louisville, get a deal on a hotel at one of these places. You can go to these places and say, how much for a month or how much for a week, and they'll give you a deal, right?
Yeah.
And I would live there and I would work work during the day. And then at night I'd go cruise around or do a late night working. And during the day I go hit record stores or go to a museum or something. But it allowed me to take the show on the road in some respects and then go just broaden, like what's it like to live in this part of Texas? Well, let's just go there and just spend a couple days. Now, that happened because I had money saved. Before I knew it, and please don't take this the wrong way, I had $100,000 in the bank. And what that
Wow.
was like, holy shit, I can, this keeps adding up. I'm still living as cheap and as frugal and as pragmatically as possible. But wow,
Of
it's
course.
starting to add up. Okay, who around me needs a little bit of help? It allowed me to help buddies who were in a pinch. It allowed me to help my mom and dad. Before I knew it, I paid my house off. And I started to save and save and save. And that's just been the case all these years because the bedrock is still there.
Mm,
It's still, this frugal sense is still, in me. And, what it's allowed me to do is like from those couple little big bangs that I experienced where it was like, this is only inside of me. If I have to wait for someone to bring it to me, that's dangerous because it's
sure.
too risky. Can I make something out of this? And understand that like it might fall flat because a couple did. Well, that's the kind of creative leap I had to make. Luckily, it took off. And all these years later, and I don't really even know how to answer it, but it's like, things are still good. We saw a lot of field notes, we saw a lot of merch here, and beyond thankful. The book
Mm.
continuing to sell, but it does.
Yeah, how many copies is the book sold now?
Oh, over 60,000. It's
Jesus Christ.
great. Well, I mean, they have to understand. They told me 4,000 with
Yeah.
a straight face, and I was like, "Well, that sounds like a lot to me. Isn't that a lot?" And they're like, "No, Sagmeister sold whatever. I don't even know what the number was." And it was like James Victori sold this, and I was like, "Well, that's not good to sell. 15. That's a lot, right?" The book sold a lot. And listen,
Yeah.
it isn't a race. This isn't like me, calling those colleagues and saying, "Hey, how much did your shit sell?" No. To me, it's just like it's a testament to keeping the price down, hopefully having some good content in there, being a guy that's been open to going out into the world and sharing it and selling it and living it and whatever. And yet, that's why that thing continues to sell, I would hope. But even that was something like I recoiled from the book. I was like, I don't know if I should do this. I'm meeting too many people who call themselves authors and shit, and they're basically chumps. Whatever. I mean, I'm in the backstage with some of these knuckleheads. I'm not going to name any names, but like for everyone you meet that you're like, I love her forever. That kind of is rare. Every
Mm.
person you meet that you're like, this dude, we will be buddies for the rest of our lives. There's been some really cool instances like that, but there's also been, here comes that. Sorry. There, there also has to, there's also been these moments where it's like, man, this guy is so full of himself. Look how he's like big leaguing me, and look how he's like just talking to the people around him, kind of snapping his fingers at the staff at this event. That sucks. I don't ever want to be that person. You're just taking notes. Everyone,
Yeah.
every one of these little jumps where like I wasn't supposed to be there, and you're just taking notes of how this stuff can work. So I mean, to answer these creative things, it's like there were little big bangs along the way where it was just more like I just had to realize like, well, I'm broke. How am I going to get away from this? Well, you're going to work all summer. Wow, that's a lot of work. But how am I going to enjoy my life? Well, I would pedal across Anchorage, Alaska to a Kinko's, which is, like this copy center thing,
Okay.
in 24 hours. And I would go and I would swipe my card, and you would get 1 hour of time on a computer, right? And I'd have to ride my bike back across town because the one place that was open, I'd get back from the train, it'd be late, and people would be going out drinking, fighting, fucking, sucking, jumping. Who knows what these assholes are doing? I would be pedaling to go play an Illustrator for a couple hours. You know what I mean? And I
Nice.
just understood that that was like a better sense of momentum, and that was in me. That is still in me, and I don't know. It's just that was just it was just like
That's awesome to hear, though.
well, I just hear a lot of stuff about people like, it just really hasn't happened for me yet. And it's like, you really it's a weird sprinkle of magic. You have got to go out and be really proactive with it, and you have to go out, this and that and this and this. You kind of got to go just I mean, but then again, I don't want this to sound harsh, but I don't want to be one of these goddamn Gary V's who, who Gary V is that
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Oh
what
my
I'm
God.
talking about. Just blah, blah, blah. All that. Listen, I talk a lot. I can tell what I'm doing here. I'm hogging this whole thing right now. Be one of those guys that then tries to monetize that bullshit. And basically they're making all the money and everyone else is hurting. And then they're trying to have this guy solve their shit. That's like, it's like some like televangelism or something on like
Yeah, I know.
scary
It
stuff.
drives me insane.
Well, it's nuts, man. And it might work for someone, But the majority, just a band-aid on a larger problem of like stopping yourself and saying, you know what, you got to put some hours in, and check it out. I'm doing it right there. So I'm just really careful because I see around me people who are monetizing this stuff, and it's
Yeah.
creepy. It's getting creepy because it's like, wait a second, you know, I know for just on a selfish note how much time I'm putting in to get this logo done. It's this much.
Mm.
Am I spending all my time talking about shit, or am I spending my time actually doing shit? Those are two different things. And that stuff just terrifies me because it's like, man, I'm definitely in the you know in the latter camp. I spend more time working than I would just be out, trying to turn this in. When we go on the road and we're out there talking about this story, trying to share it, make a buck off it, I just, you got to be careful. You just got,
Sure, of course.
you just got to be careful. That's the best way to put it because, you don't want to turn into this thing where your head just swells up so big because you think you're this and you think you're that, and in the end, I don't know. That's why, like I remember, here, like here's, I don't know if this is a creative like moment, but it's
Mm.
a moment for me that was like, fuck yeah, I got this. I went to this thing called the How Conference years ago. It's one of their, one of the big design conferences
Yeah, yeah.
in the States. Okay, okay. So I go to this thing. Now listen, I never could afford that shit back in the day. I don't, I never went to those things because I just, my money was spent on rent and stuff. Well, when I got to go to it, you get to see how the thing kind of goes, and you get to see like, oh, they bring, wow, I'm one of the names that are going to be speaking at this thing. That's pretty interesting. And then we did this book signing, and I'm not going to name any names, it's because it sounds a little petty, but I'm not, I wasn't doing, I was just selling merch. Someone was there selling, their book. And I remember, there was a kind of a hard stop. Like, here's this person, they're selling their book, and it's going to be done at this time. And you either get in line, and if you're, and what I saw was there's this nice long line. There's a couple thousand, 3,000 people at this thing, you know,
Mm.
and and the line dries up because the person just got up and they were done with their time. And it was like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Get your ass back there and you sign every single book until the line is done. And like, frankly, I watch people walking away, like kind of what they're like, well, I guess we're not getting our book signed. Maybe we can, catch that person a little later on. And that scared the shit out of me. It's
Yeah, totally.
out of me because it was like, man, I'm so lucky to be alive. I'm so lucky to be here. And I spent the entire afternoon talking with people. I mean, that's what we're there doing anyway. This isn't some 30-minute window if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That sucks. And that was just like this moment where it was like, okay, before I even knew about that, that was already in me to be just a good citizen that way. And now here I am under the gun and we're on the clock and it's still in me. Everything's cool. Everything's cool. It was a weird little moment.
That's awesome though. That's rare.
But
That's rare.
it pissed me off because it was like, get back there and sign their stuff. That's why you're here. You got a paycheck. I don't care if that's what they're expecting right now. And then what I run into is I run into people who are like, wait, you're sort of willing to do, you're sort of willing to stay later for them. And it's like, who told you no? Who
Yeah.
Why are you acting like that? You guys, if things change and people are interested, that's just part. Isn't that just part of our contract to be here, to be that way? Oh no, no, no! You start to see how people, I mean, to this day that afternoon still freaks me out because I will never, ever, ever, never be that person to act that way. There's always time for a kid. There's always time for someone to tell you what they're up to. There always is. And what? It's a little less time me back at the hotel. Pfft, who gives a shit? Who gives?
Yeah.
When I get on that plane, then we're done. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But up until
That's awesome though.
well, how can it be any other way? My favorite bands, they were that way. And I took cues from them. Oh man. Okay. Well,
Well, I know how much of my time how much of your time I'm eating up. So like we have some listener questions which are almost like kind of quick fire ones, and then I can I can let you go because I know you're incredibly busy, man. So, Rich from Denver asks simply, hot dogs or burritos?
Oh man. Uh, well, I like both, but I haven't had a burrito in so long. I haven't had a hot dog in so long. I will say I'd probably say a bratwurst, with a big plate of
Nice.
broccoli and a big plate of
Oh,
add a little quinoa or something. I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic
nice.
of what we have, for dinner around here. Somewhat of a healthy meal. What I love to have, a plate of two or three hot dogs. Of course, I destroy it. Would I love to have a giant burrito? But what's interesting is, I'm having to make changes there too because, I'd love to just destroy that burrito, but something's changing where like I just can't eat that way. I mean that's a
Yeah.
22-year-old question. When you're 22, you're under the sun. But it's not that it messes with me. It's just like that's just a different time. So between those two, if I had to pick, on this speed round, I'd probably go hot dog. There you go.
Nice, nice. David from Glasgow is asking, when can we get you over to Bonnie, Scotland?
Oh, well, we gotta survive this big scary thing. But here's the deal. There's a contact form on my site. Hit me up, and we have a chat. We talk about numbers, we talk about possibilities. It's very simple, and that's how this works. And then you can check it out. It
Sweet.
doesn't have to be for a conference. It could just be, um, I don't know. It could just be
Something,
just
something local.
something local where you guys put the money up and then you charge to all your buddies and we pay for it that way. It doesn't have to be as part of any sort of what you call it, like sanctioned official deal. I mean, that's one thing I've learned over the last bunch of years too, that you can just pull this shit off on your own too, and
Sweet.
that's pretty cool. So to answer that, it's like, hey, hit me up. Let's have a chat. You never know. Because, what's interesting is if a community can come together and you get 100 people together, and they pay this, for this access for a fun night, and then we do a workshop and stuff, and that covers my ticket and covers a little speaking fee. That can be done just by putting together with, even from your audience,
Yeah, of course.
instead of
Well, let's get a campaign. Let's get a campaign together.
well,
Audience, listeners,
I mean,
people who are listening.
I've been to oh shit, what's the one on the coast down on just
Edinburgh?
is it Edinburgh on the coast? I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait,
Aberdeen?
not I've been to Aberdeen. Yeah, Aberdeen. Yep.
Aberdeen. Sweet.
And it was
Oh, well.
it was just like this one kid who put it up, and he had this little conference, and we did it, and that was probably about 3 years ago. I flew over, I did a couple other things while I was around there, because that's what happens. It's like, well, hey, if you're bringing me there, let's do something in London also. Hey, if you're bringing me there, let's go talk to Manchester. Let's go to Birmingham.
Well, talking about Manchester, that's where the next question's from.
Okay, what do you got?
You just so Camilla from Manchester asks what your favorite Illustrator shortcut is.
Ooh, ooh. I don't know. Um, I think what it's been as of late is there's a thing I just learned. I mean, here's what a chump I am. I'll build these things and I'll take the time to go and strip out all the extra parts and pieces. But there's a thing I clicked on it on accident in Pathfinder called trim. And what it does is you just lay a bunch of shapes on top of each other and trim them. You don't have to go and take this step by step process to isolate these things by doing the minus front or the minus back. No, it just trims them down into these simple, the shapes as
Okay,
overlaid. And check it out. I never,
I will do.
I never knew.
I learn something new every single time I'm in the Illustrator these
I'm
days.
telling you. I mean, and sometimes it's in one ear and out the next. But what was weird about that was it was so embarrassing to me because for me to go do these really, to make this illustration or make this thing and have this, to go isolate these things because the way things were laying over the back of something or the way things were laying over the front or whatever it was, I was spending a couple hours at the end of every document basically just, isolating these pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The idea that that was just part of my normal workflow and then to go and be able to say, holy shit, this little thing called trim just knocks this thing out that fast. Like, it's just embarrassing to me. It was one click away from something I use all day long, which is Divide. It's one click away, and I just didn't even touch that. Well, it just kind of, shows to go you that we're all going so fast. If you actually stop and read this stuff, you'll see that like that was just embarrassing to me to be like, oh, that's what I was doing on a larger level for hours at an end. I didn't even know. So, I'm learning all the time, and I just try to, what I'll do is I'll put like a post-it note on my, actual machine just saying, don't forget about the trim, because that thing changed the way that I work. Because like when I'm doing this stuff for like a screen printer and I don't want to give them just live shapes, I would go through and isolate every little
Yeah.
piece and then get them to on its own layer. So if you've got yellow, orange, and red, you've got a yellow layer, an orange layer, a red layer, and those red shapes only go on that thing. Well, now with this trim, you can get there that much faster. And it's just kind of embarrassing to me that like I didn't click one thing over. I didn't.
I don't think you're alone in that one. I don't know if there's anyone in the world that knows every keyboard shortcut.
It's
That's for
just,
certain.
now, then you have to understand. It's like, well, wait a second, how's that any different than Pathfinder? Well, you got to go and learn and read about it and understand, what that thing is doing. Pathfinder's different. It makes it all just, you know, these separate little shapes. But no, trim goes on based on a hierarchy. Whatever's up above, that's the thing that kind of snaps out of through. Just go play with it, because it's just embarrassing to me how, I've, I've just
Gone this long.
well, I still don't even know how to talk about it, because that's something that I was faced with many, many times. And there's another one next to it I'm clicking on while we're talking right now called Merge. I don't even know what that does. I got to go read about it now and learn about it. And, a whole new world. That was one click to the right of what the hell the trim. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Like, what else don't I know about? Aaron, there's a little thing you can touch there that just gives you $100 every time in an account. I don't know. I was too busy worrying about points and picking fly shit out of pepper. You know what I mean? You got a pile of pepper and
Yeah.
you go taste it. And you go, oh, that's definitely fly shit. And you put that
Yeah.
off to the left and you go take the next one. Oh, that's definitely pepper. That goes in the stack of pepper. You do that all day long. Picking through these pixels. Just embarrassing. Okay, next question.
So, last question is from Kevin from Glasgow, who has asked, "What's the key bit of advice you'd for gaining clients when you're a freelancer, especially when you've just started?"
Oh yeah. Just understand your taxes. Understand your
Big one, yeah, big time.
That's a big. I mean, it's a thing there. It's a thing here, and you got to be careful. You got to be careful because when I started out, I needed every penny for everything. You know, and that's just the best I could do. It's like I needed it for everything, and it's like I cut a couple corners, and that doesn't really catch up to you because you're small potatoes. But there were a couple years there where I screwed up pretty big. First of all, it's nothing nefarious. I just didn't know the rules.
Hmm.
And it bit me pretty good because the rules are the rules and I screwed it up. I didn't really know any better, and that's really no excuse, but it still got me. And I had to pay some penalties and pay some things.
Yeah, the
That
fun.
was a bad year. So, whatever level you're at, it's like my mind doesn't go to the things like, oh, here's how to stay creative all the time. None of that shit. My mind is like, don't get in trouble. That's where my mind goes. Like,
Hmm.
understand that, like, first of all, it's going to take work. It's going to take a little bit of perseverance and a little bit of elbow grease. Well, that's all stuff you just better know anyway. I don't want to be the one to have to tell you that. It's more like, don't get in trouble with the stuff that we're all dealing with, which is taxes, right? Just don't
Yeah,
get in trouble with that stuff. But I know that's maybe not the juiciest of stuff, but that's stuff that I still to this day haunts me, because there were a lot of years there where it was kind of scary. And
of
I
course.
just,
And if you get stung, then you're never gonna forget it either.
oh man, I mean, the rules are the rules, and I mean, in this weird time of, the fucking our piece of shit president, and there's all these people that are being emboldened to say, I'm not paying those taxes and whatever, this and whatever and that, like that stuff just doesn't go away. They're gonna come after you, and they're gonna get their chunk because that's what keeps these countries running on whatever level. But
Of
so
course.
it's just I don't know, but also other things just like invest in good equipment. You know, I remember having to buy like the medium range or the lowest range laptop when I was it was a chance my first time I got to go buy a laptop, and now I'm in a lucky position. I go get the fastest one they make. It's like a write off and shit.
Mm,
I remember having to go without and being like, well, but stop myself and going, okay, maybe it's not the fastest one, but I'm getting closer each time. Just understanding
sure.
instead of wallowing in it, sizing up how kind of lucky I already was, and understanding that. So, I mean, for first time freelancers, be good communicators, be good citizens, you know, um, be gracious on the phone. Don't flip out when the client wants to change things 16 ways. That shit's just going to happen. No big deal.
Yeah.
And so what? They're going to make changes. So, you know, it, I don't know. I just, my mind just instantly goes to the things that were kind of scary, back in the day, which were, the ability for a client to just stop a project, or send you reeling off and then you have to do a ton more work. Well,
I
sometimes that
know.
shit's going to
God.
happen. Sometimes that shit's going to happen. But hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
You-
Hopefully I can answer it.
Are you a fan of a band called the Jesus and Mary Chain?
I've never heard of them before, but I will certainly. What? How do you like? What they called again? Jesus and the Mary Chain.
Yes, and they're a Scottish band.
Oh, really? No, God, shit. Now I feel really bad. No.
East Kilbride in '83. There's my shitty Scottish accent. But anyway, in the last, the best records of theirs were 85, 87, and 89. Anyway, they are the precursor. Like if the Velvet Underground,
Ooh,
the Velvet Underground was a thing in 1968, right? Whatever it was,
I'm a big fan of the Velvet Underground, so there
64,
you go.
65, whatever it was, Lou Reed and all that. Okay, 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 okay. When you go listen to these guys, they definitely take cues from them. But it was that version in 1985. And it was well before the Flaming Lips, well before all these bands that I grew up with, Mercury Rev and Tripping Daisy and all this kind of, well before the shoegaze. We'll just,
Oh, they're playing next week.
yeah, who is?
Jesus and the Mary Chain. They're playing in Glasgow next week.
Well, why I want to say this is because every year there's like a band I kind of never listened to, and then I just sort of discover, right? And in the last month, I've been on a real Jesus and Mary chain. Listen, I knew about them growing up. I saw the T-shirts, I saw the stuff. They were definitely one of these kind of alternative bands from that explosion. But they
Mm.
3 and 4 years before all those Nirvanas and all that shit. You know what I mean? And this kind of atmospheric, kind of psychedelic kind of thing that these guys are doing. Which just it's embarrassing to me because when you listen to it now, you realize where a lot of the bands I loved got a lot of their sound from, and
All right.
that is from this band. From it was a Scottish band. So I mean, that's the stuff I thought about when the first time you kind of yeah Scotland. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. You know, every day we're all connected, and it's like be it through rock and roll or whatever. And I mean it's just weird to me. It's like their records from '85, 87,
Yeah.
'89, they sound as fresh as anything, and that's just not that's my compliment to these guys. I sort of discovered them for myself in 2020, and they sound as fresh as anything. And these guys were like, they were the start of all this stuff in a lot of ways. So anyway,
Well, I'm definitely checking them out
let's go
because I'm a
check it
huge
out.
Velvet Underground fan. So
I think it was some shitty name like Psycho Candy or something. Just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all you Scottish son of a bitches, go do it. All right, I mean, are we done? Is that it?
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and do the podcast. It's been an honor and I appreciate your time. It's been awesome.
Well, I hope it was good, and thank you for having me. And for everybody
And
listening, thank you for allowing me to do this for all these years, and for supporting the DDC and coming to a show or getting the book or any of this stuff. Thank you.
yeah, and if I'm ever on the West Coast, I'll hit you up and maybe we can do part two in person.
Sounds good, man. Keep me posted.
Cool. So to wrap up, folks, if you want to head over to your favorite podcast platform and hit subscribe, you will get notified when a new episode goes up. And if you are enjoying the show, by all means, hit the stars, leave a review, share it with your mates. Tiny amount of effort, but it makes a massive difference. But That's it from us here. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found some method in the madness.